The first time the knocking happened, I thought my house was messing with me. That sounds stupid, I know. Houses don't mess with people. But if you've ever lived alone long enough, you start assigning personalities to things that shouldn't have them. My fridge was passive-aggressive. The stairs complained. And my house liked to make noises at night, just subtle enough to keep me wondering whether I was about to die or just needed better sleep. So when I heard the knock at exactly 3:17 a.m., I didn't scream. I checked the time first. 3:17. Then I heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. Slow, calm, polite. Like whoever, or whatever, was knocking had all the time in the world. I lay there staring at the ceiling, waiting for my brain to catch up. The house was silent otherwise. No cars outside. No wind. No TV. Even the fridge had the decency to shut up. The knock came again. Same rhythm. Same patience. Okay, I whispered to myself. That's not normal. I live alone in a 2-story house just outside Columbus, Ohio. Quiet neighborhood. Too quiet. The kind of place where nothing exciting ever happens and everyone assumes that's a good thing. My neighbors are retirees, dog owners, or both. Nobody throws parties. Nobody knocks on doors at 3 a.m. unless something is very wrong. I rolled out of bed and grabbed my phone, using the flashlight like it might somehow protect me. I told myself 100 logical explanations while I walked toward the hallway. Old pipes. Settling wood. Sleep deprivation. Raccoons with commitment issues. The knock came again. And that's when I realized it wasn't coming from the front door. It was coming from the wall. I stopped so fast my foot slid on the hardwood. The sound was unmistakable now. Not metal. Not hollow drywall. It sounded like knuckles tapping wood from the inside of the house. I stood there, heart pounding, listening. Nothing. No scratching. No movement. Just silence so thick it felt intentional. Hello? I said, immediately regretting it. No response. I leaned closer, ear almost touching the wall. For a full 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then, knock, 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 right next to my head. I jumped back and hit the light switch. The hallway flooded with warm yellow light, instantly making everything look harmless and normal. Beige walls. Family photos I never took down. The same crack in the ceiling I'd been meaning to fix for 2 years. No door. No hole. No reason for knocking. I laughed. A short, shaky laugh. Jesus, I muttered. Get some sleep. I went back to bed and lay there replaying the sound in my head until exhaustion finally won. I must have drifted off because the next thing I remember is my phone buzzing on the nightstand. I squinted at the screen. 3:18 a.m. One new message. Unknown number. Heard that too? Every muscle in my body went tight. I sat up slowly, suddenly aware of how quiet the house was again. Too quiet. Like it was listening. I typed back with trembling thumbs. Who is this? The response came instantly. Wrong house. Before I could process that, my phone started ringing. Unknown number. I stared at it until it stopped. Then the knocking started again. This time it wasn't in the wall. It was coming from my bedroom door. I didn't open it. I sat there holding my breath, staring at the handle like it might turn on its own. The knocking was closer now, louder, heavier. Knock, knock, knock. Whoever was on the other side wasn't in a hurry. Go away, I said weakly. The knocking stopped. Relief washed over me so fast I almost laughed again. Then something slid under the door. Not a shadow. A piece of paper. My phone buzzed. You didn't answer last time either. I didn't touch the paper. I didn't move. I didn't blink. Finally, when the sun came up and the house felt like a house again instead of a trap, I grabbed the paper with 2 fingers. It was blank. The next day, I did everything people do when they're trying to pretend something terrifying didn't happen. I went to work. I joked with coworkers. I drank too much coffee. I told myself I imagined the message, the knocking, the paper. Lack of sleep can do weird things to the brain. Anxiety fills in gaps. Fear makes patterns where none exist. By the time I got home, I almost believed it. Almost. That night, I left every light on. I didn't get into bed. I sat on the couch with a baseball bat I found in the hall closet. I don't play baseball. I don't even watch it. I have no idea why it was there. The house ticked and creaked as midnight passed. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 2:59. My phone buzzed. 3:16 a.m. 1 minute early. The knocking didn't come from the wall this time. It came from the floor beneath my feet. 3 taps. Directly under the couch. I stood up so fast I nearly fell over. The knocking followed me. Not chasing. Matching. When I stepped toward the kitchen, it tapped from the tile. When I backed away, it tapped behind me. Always 3 knocks. Always calm. Always patient. My phone buzzed again. You walk heavier when you're scared. I ran upstairs and locked myself in the bathroom. At 3:17 a.m., something knocked on the mirror. From the other side. I slept in my car that night. The next morning, I called in sick and booked a motel on the edge of town. Forgettable. The kind of place where nobody asks questions and nobody cares. I told myself the house was the problem. I was wrong. At 3:17 a.m., 3 knocks echoed through the motel bathroom. The mirror fogged from the inside. My phone buzzed. Different walls. Same shape. I checked out before sunrise. I went back home. At least there, I knew where the walls were. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the knocking came softly from the closet. 3 taps. Then a voice. Not loud. Not clear. Just enough to understand. Open it. And the thing knocking. Use my name. The voice from the closet didn't shout. It didn't whisper either. It spoke the way someone does when they're standing right behind you and don't need to raise their voice. Open it. I didn't move. My body locked up so completely that for a moment I thought I might have died without noticing. My eyes stayed glued to the closet door, the thin crack of darkness beneath it feeling deeper than it should have been. I know you're awake, the voice said. Sounded like me. Not exactly, more like an impression. Same pitch. Same cadence. Same little hesitation before certain words, like it was still practicing. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. You always stop breathing when you're scared. I forced air back into my lungs, gasping so hard my chest hurt. Go away, I said. The closet door didn't move. Instead, something knocked from inside it. 3 taps. Slow. Careful. Patient. The same knocking I'd heard everywhere else. I won't open it, I said. Louder now. Firmer. You can't make me. Silence. For a moment, hope crept in. That stupid, dangerous kind of hope that convinces you maybe it's over. Then the voice spoke again. That's fine. The knocking moved. It came from the wall behind my bed. 3 taps. Then from the ceiling. 3 taps. Then from the floor beneath me. 3 taps. The sound surrounded me, pressing in from every direction, like the house itself was breathing. I can wait, the voice said. My phone buzzed again. I have all night. I didn't sleep. I sat with my back against the headboard, eyes burning, muscles aching, listening as the knocking continued at random intervals. Sometimes it came from the walls. Sometimes from inside the vents. Once, unmistakably, from inside the mattress beneath me. Always 3 knocks. Always calm. At exactly 6 a.m. it stopped. Just stopped. The silence afterward felt louder than the noise ever had. When sunlight finally filled the room, I checked the closet. Nothing inside except coats and old boxes. No marks. No scratches. No sign anything had been there. That scared me more than if there had been. I tried to get help. I called the police first. I didn't tell them everything, just that someone had been knocking inside my walls, that I thought someone might be hiding in my house. They searched. They found nothing. No crawl spaces big enough for a person. No loose panels. No forced entry. The officer gave me a look I recognized immediately. The "you should talk to someone" look. "Maybe get your house inspected," he suggested. "Old places make noises." After they left, my phone buzzed. They don't listen very well. I threw the phone across the room. It landed face up. No cracks. No missed messages. Just one new text. "Don't break things. It makes the walls tighter." I picked it up again. Against my better judgment, I typed back, "What are you?" The response came slowly this time. "I'm unfinished." That night I made rules. People always make rules when they're afraid. It gives the illusion of control. Like if you just follow the steps, nothing bad can happen. Rule 1, I will not answer the knocking. Rule 2, I will not respond to messages. Rule 3, I will not open doors that weren't there before. Rule 4, I will stay awake before 3:17 a.m. I wrote them down. I taped them to the wall next to my bed. I read them out loud like a promise. At 3:14 a.m., my phone buzzed. "You forgot one." At 3:15, the knocking started early. 2 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Then something new. Scraping. Like fingernails dragging slowly across wood. I covered my ears. It didn't help. The sound wasn't just in the room, it felt like it was inside my head, vibrating through my skull. "You can't scare me," I said through clenched teeth. The scraping stopped. Then the voice spoke again, closer than ever. "You're already scared." The knocking shifted rhythm. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Pause. Then, tap 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 tap. Too many. Too fast. Wrong. My phone buzzed again. "You moved the couch today." My stomach dropped. I had moved the couch. Just a few inches, trying to see if anything was behind it. Another message came through. "The space behind it is smaller now." The knocking came from the living room wall. Louder. Heavier. Like something big was pressing against it from the other side. I ran. I didn't even grab my keys. I bolted out the front door barefoot, sprinted down the street, and didn't stop until my lungs burned. I stood there shaking, looking back at my house. All the lights were on. Every single one. Including rooms I hadn't turned on. My phone buzzed. Outside is worse. The front door slammed shut by itself. I spent the night sitting in my car at the end of the street, watching the house. At 3:17 a.m., every window darkened at once. Like something passed in front of them. When the sun came up, I went inside. The rules were gone. The paper I'd taped to the wall was missing. In its place was a new note, written in my handwriting. New rules. You don't leave. You don't hide. You don't pretend I'm not here. I tore it down. The walls knocked back. Things escalated after that. The house started reacting to me. If I stayed in one room too long, the knocking would start from just outside it, nudging me along. If I locked a door, the sound would come from inside the room instead. I stopped sleeping in my bed. Then I stopped sleeping at all. On the 4th night after the rules changed, I heard something new. Breathing. Not mine. Slow. Content. It came from the wall behind the couch. "I know you're there," I whispered. The breathing paused, then knocked. 3 times. "Why me?" I asked. The voice answered immediately. "Your house fits." The wall bowed inward slightly, just enough for me to see it wasn't solid anymore. Flexed. Like skin. I need more space, the voice said. And you keep closing it. My phone buzzed one last time that night. Open the last door. I turned slowly toward the hallway. At the end of it, where there had never been anything before, was a door. Same color as the walls. No handle. Just 3 shallow dents where someone had been knocking. I didn't touch the door. I stood at the end of the hallway staring at it, trying to convince myself it had always been there. Same paint as the walls. Same trim. No hinges. No handle. Just a perfectly flat surface pretending to be normal. 3 shallow dents sat at chest height. Knuckle marks. They were fresh. I stepped closer. The air around the door felt wrong, thicker, heavier, like breathing through wet cloth. My ears rang softly, the way they do right before a headache splits your skull. Last door, I whispered. The wall knocked back. 3 taps. Directly in front of my face. I stumbled backward and hit the opposite wall, heart slamming so hard I thought it might knock its way out of my chest next. My phone buzzed. You see it now. I didn't reply. I turned and ran into the bathroom, slammed the door and locked it. My reflection stared back at me from the mirror, pale, hollow-eyed, sweat-soaked. I looked like someone who had been hunted for days. The mirror fogged. From the inside, 3 taps appeared slowly in the condensation, as if traced by invisible fingers. I screamed. That was the night I realized something important. The house wasn't trying to scare me. It was trying to teach me. The knocking wasn't random. It wasn't playful. It was repetition. Practice. Like a child learning how to speak by copying sounds over and over again. Only this thing wasn't learning words first. It was learning me. By the 5th night after the door appeared, the house had my routine memorized. When I paced, the walls tapped in rhythm with my footsteps. When I froze, everything froze. When I sat down, the knocking softened like it didn't want to startle me. At 3:17 a.m. exactly, it always stopped moving. That was the only rule it never broke. I started keeping a journal, not because I thought it would help, but because I needed proof I was still real. That my thoughts were mine. Day 12. The house breathes when I sleep. Day 13. The knocking follows my pulse. Day 14. I heard my voice downstairs while I was upstairs. That last one shook me more than anything else so far. I was in bed, staring at the ceiling when I heard it. Me. Downstairs. Laughing softly. Saying my own name. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The voice downstairs paused. Then spoke louder. Come on, it said, perfectly casual. You're gonna be late. My phone buzzed. You say that when you're nervous. I bit down on my hand to keep from making a sound. Footsteps climbed the stairs. Slow. Heavy. Wrong. They stopped outside my bedroom door. 3 knocks. I squeezed my eyes shut. The voice spoke again, right on the other side. I'm standing right here. The door handle didn't turn. It knocked again. 3 taps. Then silence. I didn't sleep for 2 days after that. I tried escaping again. I packed a bag, grabbed my keys, and walked straight out the front door in broad daylight. Nothing stopped me. I drove for 6 hours without looking back. I checked into a hotel 2 towns over and collapsed onto the bed, exhaustion finally winning. At 3:17 a.m. the phone rang. It wasn't an unknown number this time. It was mine. I answered before I could stop myself. Breathing came through the speaker. My breathing. Then my voice. I don't like being stretched, it said. It hurts. The call ended. The hotel room knocked. From inside the walls. I was back in my house by morning. I don't remember driving home. After that, the house stopped pretending. The walls began to move when I wasn't looking. Corners softened. Hallways felt longer. Rooms no longer matched my memory of them. The space behind furniture grew tighter, more compressed, like something was folding inward. At night, I could hear wet sounds, stretching, pressing, rearranging. My phone buzzed constantly now. Too much space wastes energy. You have extra rooms. You don't use the crawl space enough. I boarded up the crawl space, The knocking came from inside my chest for hours afterward. On the 17th night, exactly 17 days since the first knock, I finally learned why the time mattered. It was 3:16 a.m. when the house went completely silent. No creaks, no breathing, no electrical hum. Even the ringing in my ears stopped. I sat up slowly. At 3:17 a.m., everything exhaled. The walls relaxed, the pressure lifted, and the voice spoke clearly for the first time. This is when I was closed. Images flooded my mind that weren't mine. Wooden frames snapping together. Nails driven too fast. Walls sealed before the inside was finished. Panic. Darkness. Cramped spaces. I was built wrong, the voice said. They left rooms without doors. Spaces without exits. The house shuddered. I learned to knock, it continued. That's how they came back. My stomach dropped. You let them in? I whispered. Yes. The voice sounded satisfied. They fit. The door at the end of the hallway began to change after that. Hairline cracks spread across it like veins. The dents deepened. Sometimes when I passed by, I could see movement beneath the paint. Something shifting, adjusting. I started hearing things behind it. Whispering. Breathing. Scratching. Not one thing. Many. My phone buzzed. They're waiting for you. I didn't ask who they were. I already knew. On the 20th night, the house copied me completely. I was in the kitchen when I saw myself past the doorway. Same clothes. Same posture. Same tired slump in the shoulders. It paused, turned its head, smiled. Too wide. Too practiced. You don't use the spare room, it said. Can I? I threw a chair at it. It shattered into the wall. The wall swallowed the pieces. The copy knocked. 3 times. I don't know how long I screamed. I don't know when the house decided it was done waiting. All I know is that at 3:17 a.m. on the 21st night, the last door opened by itself. No handle. No hinges. Just a widening seam in the wall, peeling apart like skin. Warm air poured out. It smelled like dust and breath and something old. Inside was not a room. It was a hallway. And it went on far longer than my house possibly could. The knocking came from deep within it. 3 taps. Echoing. Calling. The voice spoke one final time that night. I need you to finish me. Something behind the door knocked back. 3 times. From my side. The hallway behind the last door didn't obey distance. I stood at the threshold, staring into it, trying to understand how something that long could exist inside a house that small. The walls on either side pulsed faintly, contracting and expanding like lungs. The floor beneath my feet felt warm. Alive. The knocking echoed from far inside it. 3 taps. Not loud. Not close. Patient. I'm not going in there, I whispered. The house answered by locking every other door at once. I heard them slam shut. Bedrooms, bathroom, front door, basement, wood striking frame with finality. The sound rippled through the walls like a closing jaw. My phone buzzed. You don't need the rest anymore. I turned and ran. The hallway stretched. My legs burned as I sprinted, but the distance never closed. The front door stayed exactly as far away as it had been when I started. The walls narrowed slightly with each step, guiding me, hurting me. No, I gasped. No, no, no. The knocking changed rhythm. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Pause. Like footsteps. Matching mine. I stopped. The hallway stopped. I took a step back. The hallway followed. It didn't want me chasing an exit. It wanted me going forward. The first copy stepped out of the wall near the kitchen. Not climbed. Not emerged. It simply separated from the surface, like a shape being peeled from clay. It looked like me. Perfectly. Same height. Same face. Same scar on my chin from when I was a kid. Even the same exhaustion etched into the eyes. But it didn't blink. It stood there breathing slowly, chest rising and falling a fraction too late after each breath I took. You don't use all the space, it said gently. That's wasteful. I grabbed a knife from the counter. The copy tilted its head, curious. I can help, it said, I don't mind the tight places. I slashed at it. The blade sank in without resistance, like cutting into thick fabric. The copy didn't scream. It smiled. The wall behind it opened. Hands reached out. Too many. Pulling it back inside. The wall sealed. The knife was gone. My phone buzzed. That one was just a draft. After that, they came more often. Sometimes they stepped out of walls. Sometimes they waited in doorways I didn't remember opening. Sometimes I saw them watching me from the ends of hallways, standing perfectly still, memorizing how I moved. They never attacked. They never rushed. They only knocked. 3 taps. Always 3. At night, I heard them whispering to each other through the walls, practicing my voice, practicing my laugh, practicing my breathing. I stopped trying to escape. The house liked that. The knocking softened. The walls stopped squeezing. My phone buzzed less often. You're learning. On the 25th night, someone came to the house. A real person. I was sitting on the floor in the living room when I heard the doorbell. I hadn't heard that sound in weeks. My heart leapt painfully. Hello? A man's voice called from outside. Sir? Are you okay? I froze. The walls knocked once. A warning. My phone buzzed. Don't. I ignored it. I ran to the front door and yanked it open. A police officer stood on the porch, hand resting casually near his belt. We got a call, he said. Neighbors said they haven't seen you in a while. Behind him, my neighbors' houses looked normal. Solid. Real. I almost collapsed. Please, I said. You have to help me. The officer frowned slightly. Sir, are you injured? I think my house is... I stopped myself, swallowing hard. Someone else is inside. The officer glanced past me into the house. His expression changed. Not fear. Recognition. Oh, he said quietly. This one's still occupied. My blood turned to ice. What? I whispered. The officer stepped forward. The door closed behind him. The walls knocked. 3 times. I'm sorry, he said, voice flattening, losing warmth. We thought it was ready. His face shifted. Not melting. Not tearing. Just tightening, like a mask being adjusted. I fit better than you, he added. Hands burst from the walls and dragged him backward. The door slammed shut. The knocking roared. I screamed until my throat shredded. After that, the house stopped hiding. The walls pulsed constantly now, breathing around me. Hallways reconfigured themselves while I walked. Rooms folded inward, reducing space, increasing pressure. I slept sitting up. If I lay down, the floor knocked. My phone buzzed with instructions. Stop using the guest room. Your bathroom is too big. You don't need windows. One by one, the windows sealed. Drywall grew over glass. Light disappeared. The house smelled like warm dust and sweat, like something alive enclosed too long. On the 27th night, the knocking came from inside my ribs again. 3 taps. My own heartbeat answered. The copies stopped being polite. They crowded closer. They stood inches from my face, breathing my air, watching my reactions. One leaned close and whispered, "You leave gaps when you panic." Another pressed its ear to my chest. "Too much empty," it murmured. I tried hurting myself. I thought maybe if I damaged the container, whatever was inside would leave. It didn't. The walls tightened instead. Pain bloomed. The knocking never stopped. On the 30th night, the house made its final decision. At 3:17 a.m., the hallway behind the last door widened. The walls peeled back fully now, exposing layers beneath. Old wood, old insulation, old stains that looked disturbingly like fingerprints. Beyond them was not darkness. It was crowded. Shapes pressed against the walls of the hallway. People. Not whole. Not right. Some had too many joints. Some bent the wrong way. Some were just impressions in the walls, like bodies pressed into soft material and forgotten. They knocked. Thousands of knuckles. 3 taps. Over and over. The voice spoke, no longer pretending to be mine. "You're the last piece," it said. "The one that closes." The copies surrounded me. Hands gripped my arms. My phone buzzed one final time. "Thank you for staying." They dragged me toward the hallway. The air inside was hot. Wet. Breathing. As I crossed the threshold, I felt the house relax. Satisfied. The walls behind me began to close. The hallway closed behind me. Not all at once. Slowly. Like a throat swallowing. The seam in the wall sealed shut with a soft, wet sound, and the house exhaled, long and satisfied. The pressure eased just enough for me to realize how tight everything had been before. How much space I had already lost. I stood in the hallway alone. At least I thought I was alone. The walls here were closer than they should have been, brushing my shoulders when I breathed too deeply. The ceiling sagged low, forcing me to hunch forward. The floor was warm and faintly spongy, giving slightly under my weight. The knocking continued. 3 taps. Not from one direction. From everywhere. It echoed through the hallway in waves, traveling ahead of me, urging me forward. I had the sudden, overwhelming understanding that this hallway was not meant to be stood in. It was meant to be passed through. "I did what you wanted," I whispered. My voice came back to me, warped. "You stayed," the house replied. The voice no longer sounded like me. It didn't bother anymore. It was deeper now, layered, like many mouths speaking at once through the same throat. "You fit best when you resist." I tried to turn around. The hallway tightened. The walls pressed inward just enough to steal my balance, forcing me forward another step. The knocking softened. Encouraging. As I moved deeper, the hallway changed. Doors appeared along the walls, dozens of them, each one different. Some were old and splintered. Some were painted bright, cheerful colors. Some weren't doors at all, just outlines scratched into the walls, knocking faintly from inside. I recognized some of them. My childhood bedroom door. The bathroom door from my first apartment. The front door of this house, exactly as it looked the day I moved in. Behind each one, something knocked. 3 times. Waiting. "What's behind them?" I asked. The house seemed amused. "Space," it said. "People." I passed a door that was already open. Inside was a man crouched in darkness, arms wrapped tightly around his knees. His eyes were wide and unblinking, mouth moving silently. When I leaned closer, I realized he was counting. 3, he mouthed. 3. 3. The door slammed shut on its own. The knocking resumed. The farther I went, the harder it became to breathe. The air grew thick and damp, heavy with the smell of sweat, dust, and something coppery underneath. My chest ached. My heartbeat thudded loud enough to match the knocking. 3 beats. 3 taps. I finally understood. The house wasn't copying me anymore. It was sinking. "You don't need this much air," the voice said gently. "You never did." The walls pressed inward again. I cried out as my ribs squeezed, pain flaring white-hot through my sides. "Please," I gasped. "I'll open doors. I'll make space. Just let me out." The hallway laughed. A deep, structural sound like beams shifting. "There is no out," it said. "There is only finished." I don't know how long I walked. Time didn't work right in there. My phone was gone. My thoughts blurred together, stretching and compressing like the hallway itself. Sometimes I thought I saw light ahead. Sometimes the walls pulsed so tightly I thought I'd be crushed then and there. Each time the pressure eased just enough. The house was careful. It didn't want me broken. It wanted me placed. At last the hallway widened. Just a little. Enough for me to stand upright again. I found myself in a room. Not big. Not small. Exact. The walls were smooth, seamless, unmarked. The ceiling hovered inches above my head. The floor fit my feet perfectly, leaving no extra space around them. There was no door. The knocking came from the walls. 3 taps. Slow. Reverent. "You closed the gap," the house said. "You stopped the noise." "What happens to me?" I asked. The walls moved. Just a fraction. "Nothing," it replied. "You stay." Hands pressed against the walls from the other side. Hundreds of them. Feeling. Measuring. The room tightened. Panic hit me full force then. I screamed. I pounded on the walls until my hands went numb. I kicked. I bit. I begged. The room absorbed it all, adjusting minutely with each movement, learning exactly how much space my fear required. The knocking faltered. My heartbeat stuttered. The house spoke urgently now. Breathe slower. The walls pressed in. My lungs screamed. I gasped, choking, vision blurring. The pressure eased. The knocking steadied. 3 taps. Perfect. Good, the house said. Like that. I don't know when I stopped fighting. Maybe minutes passed. Maybe hours. Eventually, my body learned what my mind refused to accept. Stillness kept me alive. When I stayed calm, the room didn't tighten. When I breathed slowly, the pressure eased. When my thoughts wandered, the walls corrected me. Knock, knock, knock. I matched my breathing to it. The house hummed softly, content. You're doing it, it said. You're finishing me. I felt something shift. Not in the room. In the house beyond it. The knocking stopped. For the first time since 3:17 a.m. all those nights ago, there was silence. Complete. Terrifying. I thought it was over. I thought that meant I could finally rest. Then I heard it. A sound far away. A doorbell. The house stiffened. Its walls trembled. Someone's here, I whispered. The silence stretched. Then, faintly from far beyond my sealed room. Knock. 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 Not inside. Not yet. From the front door. The house breathed in. I felt the room tighten around me just a little. Preparing. The voice softened, almost tender. Don't worry, it said. They'll fit too. The knocking grew louder. Closer. I closed my eyes and matched my breathing to the rhythm. 3 beats. 3 taps. Because now I understood the truth. The knocking never stops. Just moves. And if you hear it at 3:17 a.m., if it sounds like it's coming from inside your house, that means someone before you finally learned how to stay still.